Well, there's a difference between it's too expensive and I can't afford it. Can we just talk about the DIY mentality and how that kind of interferes with...
Oh, yes.
Because this is the thing. We're going to be talking about, is your value worth your price? So that's a mouthful. So what does that mean? Are you confident with how you've priced your goods and services? And are you confident selling? And are you confident when someone objects?
I like to use car metaphors a lot because I love cars. So, when a Ferrari is priced a certain way, it's because you know the value. Literally, actually. Wait. When you hear the word Ferrari,
you know it's expensive.
And you know it's got value.
What is expensive? Maybe that's a normal price range for someone. So maybe it's not expensive.
Well, normal price range for the person who can afford a Ferrari.
Right, exactly.
Well, the same thing holds true with lower priced cars. Generally speaking, people assume that a Mercedes-Benz is going to have a higher quality of value than a much lesser priced car, without naming names.
I think it all starts with your own money mindset. We've already done a video podcast on Projection 101 and how perceptions are the reality for someone. So I read a book, Happy Money. I cannot remember the author, but I will put a link in the description and show notes. Depending on money mindset is going to lead to how confident you are with pricing your goods and services and then dealing with the objections, because people want a deal. Psychologically, they just want to feel like they're getting a deal. So whether that's they negotiate, whether it's a discount or a coupon or something.
Gotta say, I love the word confidence, so I want to come back to that, but I have to say I disagree on people wanting to deal. There are people out there who kind of assume that everything's negotiable. But here's what I have learned as a mortgage banker and now with our little practice here at Aurora Consulting on pricing. If people understand your value before they come to you, they don't even think about negotiating. If you walk into a Ferrari showroom, you are not negotiating the price of a Ferrari. You're not negotiating the price of a Mercedes-Benz either.
Well, Apple doesn't negotiate when you go in to buy a laptop or a phone. The price is the price is the price.
And again, because people understand the value of the product.
Let's talk
Those
about
manufacturers and or you, I want to go back to your word confidence, they have a confidence about their pricing, knowing full well their value. And that's really what we're talking about today is, do you as a small business owner understand the value you're offering for your product or service before you set the price? I want to take the slightly different direction and hand it back over to Linda Ray, who I can see is chomping at the bit to start talking again. I believe you cannot know your value of your product or service until you can appreciate the value of other people's products or services. So I want you to let's talk about that. How can you figure that out?
We have almost about 350 clients, and there is a direct correlation with certain consumer behaviors and how we led up to signing them on as clients. Some real regrets that we have had with some people who have not appreciated our value.
But we've created a filtering system because we've actually come to this place that we're talking about in today's show. We've come to the place of understanding our value. We have changed our pricing 3 times.
Yes.
Since we started in March of 2020, and we have also changed our attitude towards our value. We now have a Fort Knox level attitude towards our value. We know what our value is. We know what the results are that we deliver and the performance we deliver. And therefore, we have created a filtering that just basically says, this is who we are. And if you get it, you do business with us and we'll take your money. If you don't get it, we're not having it. Today's podcast was inspired by a conversation we were having at a restaurant recently. As we were signing the check and writing the tip, we had a conversation about increasing the tip because of the value of somebody being there to serve us with everything that's going on still with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I said to Linda, I don't think a lot of people really are understanding what it takes for somebody to come back to this restaurant today. In fact, just this week, tourists from Texas were arrested 2 days ago for assaulting a hostess at a restaurant in Manhattan because she was enforcing New York City's new vaccine card.
We were just in City Island, and that they
we went to dinner at a restaurant, and to sit inside in New York City, you have to have your vaccine card to prove you're vaccinated. If not, you have to sit outside. These people assaulting the hostess is kind of the extreme case, but it highlights what so many of you as small business owners need to think about. What is your appreciation of the value of products and services that you buy, that you consume?
Well, I think the value also goes to respect for whatever it is you're buying or whatever service is being delivered to you that you need. For us, we're doing EIDL consulting. So it's not quite a product. It's not food service. It's not skincare or a car. But, I think there's got to be some level of respect for what it is you need as a customer and what that provider is delivering to you
in terms of value and then price.
And then the price. I think with price is you have to do, as the business owner, you should have conducted some kind of research on a comparable type, sort of like when you're selling a house, you do comps. Isn't that part of like what else is selling in the neighborhood? I think there should be some due diligence in researching what your particular item is that you're selling or service that you're selling. What are other people charging that other people are paying for? When you are delivering something and you've set a price, depending on the time invested in getting that thing, that service to market, you may adjust your price because you might be like, this costs more because of the time invested. Sort of like what we did. We were first charging $750 because we didn't even know, there was no way to price it with comps. We did not know the time.
Well, the SBA had given us guidance as far as a maximum fee of $2,500. And it was early days of the COVID pandemic, and we were dealing with business owners terrified about whether they were going to survive. We didn't even think their loans would ever be approved.
Right.
And we had an ethical dilemma
Yeah.
in charging these full fees. Of course, now we've looked back and realized we delivered tremendous value to these customers.
Well, that's because of the time that we invested in making sure that we were doing all the right things to get the loans approved, and thus determined how much time it took for each file to process. That's why we increased our price. But that was only after researching and understanding and experiencing.
So going back to confidence in your price and understanding the value of things that you purchase, when I say that, I mean you have to have a true mental exercise. And it doesn't have to go on forever and ever and ever. I mean, a week, 2 weeks, a month. Spend your time when you are buying anything, whether it's going to a restaurant, whether it's buying groceries, buying a book, getting your car serviced, getting your car washed, any number of things. Pay attention to the quality of the service and the value you're receiving and compare that to the price.
Thank you for pausing so it doesn't...
Well, I have to pause because you pointed right at me.
Well, right, and then also because there was an interruption coming, I know. I think, can we just talk about the DIY mentality and how that kind of interferes with...
Oh, yes.
Because this is the thing. You can't get something that's a DIY price and then expect white glove service. So stop it. If that's even remotely...
To expect expert service, to expect craftsman-like service, to expect professional service. Look, can you file your tax return on your own using that software program that I hate? Absolutely. Are you going to get the same value as if you find a really excellent CPA or tax professional? You will not get the same value. And I can say that with full authority because I've read thousands of tax returns. And I have seen it for decades that more often than not, people who prepare their own tax returns completely fail in terms of maximizing what they could have gotten had they hired a competent tax professional. And the response, when I have pointed this out to people all the time, is, yeah, but they're too expensive. So that goes exactly to what I just said to all of you listeners about understanding and observing, doing a mental calculation for anything you purchase over the next week or 2 or 3 weeks to understand what is the value compared to the price.
This is the thing too. It's too expensive. So guess what? Then you have to take extra time and get accounting for dummies or something, and you have to read on how to do it.
This is on a nice track. So let's take this as a little exercise of understanding price and value. So the DIY person says, I don't want to hire a tax person because they're too expensive. I'm going to do it on my own. So I'm going to use the software program, whether it's free or minimal expense. If you really want to maximize your DIY effect there, you do what Linda said. You go to the store, you buy a book, whether it's the For Dummies book or proper Barron's accounting handbook book, or the one that I prefer, in fact, I used to use in my very young life, J.K. Lasser's Your Income Tax, which is published with updates every year, actually by a friend of Linda Ray's, a woman named Barbara Weltman, who's a CPA and an author.
And a lawyer, tax lawyer.
tax lawyer, and J.K. Lasser's updates to the latest tax codes. And it's easy to read, and anything pertaining to your particular tax situation is easy to find. So whatever the price is an enhancement to your DIY mentality. But I want to do some math, and then I'm going to hand it back to you because I see you biting your lip over there. We love to interrupt each other, but we also hate it when we interrupt each other. The rows can be legendary.
Hashtag true story.
What I have seen in my experience reading thousands of tax returns is the following. I see a DIY owes money at the end of the year or has a refund. Let's say their refund is $2,200. Had they spent
I know where you're going.
$350 for a competent tax professional, their refund probably would have been double.
Or they would have structured their taxes in a way where they weren't getting that much refund and they would have had money in their pocket to afford a professional.
Oh, yeah, because the other thing with a professional is they give you advice as part of their service, and they might say to you,
why are you loaning the government money for 12 months?
Why not change your withholding at work and take home more?
But
this is how you determine value of the product or service.
Well, it's a good point that I'm interrupting you now, because there is no way someone can say it's too expensive and I don't have time to do it myself. Then something is wrong with an equation of your priorities, period. Because if you don't have enough time, that means you should be in your business working to generate income more so than not having the money and not having the time.
Drives me nuts when people say I don't have the time. I've lived a lot of experiences in my life, business, personal, and professional, where I had to make the time to do something. If that meant getting up at 4 in the morning or staying up until 12:30 at night to get it done. I want to go to the phrase, it's too expensive. Do you know why I despise that phrase? Because it displays a sincere ignorance of the value of what it is. In my opinion, the only thing you can consider as expensive or not are luxury items. Mm-hmm. A luxury item is not necessarily a diamond brooch. A luxury item can be something you don't really need. Or, a leather jacket.
It's a convenience.
Sneakers.
It's about convenience.
Something that makes you feel good, something that makes you look good, whatever. Whether you're buying a house, hiring an accountant, getting your car washed, if you say the phrase, it's too expensive, you are displaying a sincere lack of the value.
Well, there's a difference between it's too expensive and I can't afford it. So there's that.
I think that's a separate podcast.
Well, that and making excuses and what people obsess over, which I think is going to be next.
Here's our wealth and HELLNESS segment. Take a piece of paper, write down a deadline for yourself, whether it's 5 days from now or a month from now. Create a list of 5 items about your business that you want customers to appreciate. Product, price, value for things you purchase and acquire and your own products and services that you sell. And Linda has an awesome tag on to this wealth and HELLNESS.
With that, once you have your value statement or the 5 items that you're talking about, you need to refine it and then have it where it's prominently displayed on your website, and then even maybe make a video about it. Now, why am I bringing up these tactics? It's because you want people, by the time they reach out to you, you want them to sort of be sold so that you don't have to deal with the overcoming of price objections and negotiating your value.
You want them to think Ferrari.
You have to pre-deliver on the value, plant the seed so they can absorb it and marinate in it, and then they talk themselves into or out of the decision of working with you.
You want to know what's a great value statement? Before you even pull into the parking lot, the phrase, billions sold.
McDonald's.
Bingo. This gal's Linda Ray, and I value everything about Linda Ray.
I value
except
you too.
when she interrupts me.
We both value not that.
And I will say this, Linda Ray is priceless.
Oh, you're sweet.
Simple sense for small business. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. And tune into next week's show. We're going to be talking about obsession.